All right, hey guys. So this video is a follow-up to my last video that I made. I'm going to link that one um, because I understand that the message that I was sending that it wasn't going to land well with many people. And I quickly realized that after I made the video. Meaning, like, for the people who were traumatized multi-generationally, I understand how that message may seem disrespectful, or it may seem disregarding of all that, we've endured. On the other hand of it, um, I also can see how, for the other side, perpetrators, I guess, or non-confrontational people, for those ones who have perpetuated these things, I also just think that it wasn't going to click in the way that I meant it, especially ones who are in alignment with patriarchy, who don't see the value in forgiveness, and they write it off as something of a woman's or feminine nature. No, this really is a masculine trait. Um, it may not be toxic masculinity, but it is masculine. And so yeah, this video kind of just it looks at the bigger picture and in the current circumstance and stance that we are in, and probably have been in. Okay, so I just wrote it up, I typed it up, and I'm just gonna read from it. It's simpler like that, so yeah. So I titled this a trickling web, and these are the questions that came to mind that I pretty much immediately thought of, because these are the questions that really begin to formulate what's called inner conflict. So when we talk about understanding the other, the perpetrators, those who have already sought harm to us, it doesn't even matter if we're talking about history. It could be about your current circumstance, maybe, a parent or a friend or a grandmother, anyone that you trusted, right? And they have sought some. Okay, what is forgiveness in that same sense? And then how do we handle anger and emotion that comes with understanding and forgiveness, right? Those are the major inner conflicts that we have inside, whether you are a perpetuator or you are the victim, because in some stance, at least in current times, I'm not saying in history, but in current times, because we understand now, if you watch that video, I'll link the same video, but when you watch the video of what Dr. Gabor, trauma is not just passed through epigenetically, but it is multi-generational. um, Anger and things of that nature, like those emotions come up, and handling it, how do we feel about it, right? It has nothing to do with blame, um but it does begin with recognition. Recognizing means confronting it, right? So that's where I'm starting. We have to understand that our anger is also in part due to the fact that we were never recognized for what we were violated, we were burned, harmed, and all types of toxic and abusive things. It really did damage us. We also need to acknowledge that in that way, and resilience, we were never made to go extinct. Instead, we fought our battles, built up hurting us again, and from ever being able to do, steal, violate, hurt, and misrepresent us again. These things took years of heartache, suffering, pain, and all types of very commendable things, and still these people continued to carry on with slander of our names, discrediting us, and so much more. It is the ultimate act of disrespect and the ultimate dishonor of all spirits, beings, alive and dead. Right? So whether you look at it from the historical standpoint in which I was writing this in, or you have experienced it now today, it does not matter. Right? But these are the very core foundations of most people who are alive here today. Like, we have all experienced this at some point of our in our lifetimes. Okay. It is true that all of that is accurate from both the human perspective and being, meaning generationally. So more so on the human side, it is these traits of hypocrisy that even Jesus talks about in the Bible, called the 7 woes. And I'll also link that video as well. But blindsidedness, which again, Carl Jung also discusses lies and then running away from their own injustices and crimes. So hiding behind someone else's name because they have learned a way to block out the karma that comes their way while still not reaping any consequences. And those things, right? Because we understand that when those things happen, that is an injustice. We feel like we have been played, that there's nothing that we can do, right? Because again, they've chosen to block out the karma, and they still run freely, right? But again, those things are not free, right? The people who do this are not free. They are building up karma inside of them for the people who they are bearing children with, and even their own children. So they are passing this through to their children, and they are allowing less liberation for their ancestors, for the ones who came before them. So this lineage or this generation is not free until what I'm about to say next, okay? So those traits are seen through behavioral patterns and emotional ones as well. So for example, as Dr. Gaber Mate has outlined in his books, trauma is multi-generational, and the perpetrators have built a system internally that allows them to continually function in its perpetual manner that subtly mimics or excuses their behavior. So, because to confront it is to acknowledge that the life they have built was built on the suffering of others. And this is what I say, that they're not free, because to acknowledge that for them is the thing that is going to break down their entire walls. It's going to break down what they have built, right? To acknowledge that is the collapsing of their reality. So, in some sense, they're running away from the pain that they have sought onto others. But in the other hand, they're also producing more of that suffering through their children and through their wives, through their family, through their comrades. In that same sense, I know we've all heard that when we write argumentative essays, we don't want to continually find a good thorough argumentative essay outlines. It's kept neutral. It outlines both arguments. It looks at both sides, right? Meaning there's no echo chamber found in this argument. But when you run away from things and you are only looking at things through the people who also carry these same traits, it is similarly like an echo chamber. And an echo chamber in the mind, if we switch this echo chamber to a mental aspect, we look at it from a psychological aspect. It is This repeating of cycles and patterns through the mind. It is illusion, right? When you run away from truth, you run away from confrontation, and though you know it exists, and that's the whole thing. You know it exists. And I talked about this in another earlier video that I'll link as well. You know it exists, and yet you turn a blind eye. And yet you are blocking it out. You are using your free will to block out the noise, to block out the suffering. That is called living in illusion, delusional, right? That is a form of mental illness. Okay. So now, it also means to admit that they too suffer terminally. They suffer through illnesses that create delusion. They lie to themselves, gaslight themselves. With each and every blind eye they turn is another piece of their power that is taken away from them. They still have yet to understand the nature of power by the people that they have stripped it from. All of the Native American and indigenous cultures included. Right? Now, as it comes to understanding, this is all there is to understand. Right? Everything that I have just laid out is understanding. As well as this, they choose not to. Not that they cannot, but they do not want to. That's free will. Free will is the power that allows one to choose what they want to do and what they do not want to do. They want to live in cuckoo land like Alice in Wonderland. To live in good health is to live in truth. Longevity. It is to acknowledge it on all layers and levels, multi-generationally. Not the current lifetime. And you cannot begin to expect to acknowledge it in your future generations and your children's lifetimes when you cannot even look at it from the past timelines, right? I also want to kind of clear up the fact that it was taught that understanding was meant by, oh, I understand you, so I understand why you did something to me, so I'm going to allow you to stay in my life, and I'm going to allow you to keep continually disrespecting me. That's not understanding. Understanding is this. Is understanding the truth and the nature behind what someone chooses to do. And then you, with your power now, making the sound decision on whether you want to stay or you want to leave. Because everything before that was left you in confusion, left you in heartache, left you in pain. It made you forget that you had free will, that you had the choice to leave. Okay. So forgiveness is a choice for them, but a necessity for you. Forgiveness allows the solidification of all that we have just uncovered. It is like checking that box that says, yes, I understand. And it is important because this forgiveness heals the entirety of yourself and helps you recover all that you have been through and endured, even in this current lifetime. These principles are vital, and they are core to the overall upheaval of yourself and your journey, and the ones that you are going to reproduce if you choose to have kids. But the more we learn to forgive, the more we are able to be the representation that they do not want to have on their shows. Going back to my people and anyone else who's considered a minority, right? Anyone else that they've casted as a minority in the system. We can step into an existence that begins to reshape all the stories that were told about us, irrespective of who we truly are. And like I said, This part goes beyond history and is also applicable to the current lifetime you are experiencing trauma in. These are the same concepts that all good therapists adhere to. And this is how you allow your anger to release in a healthy way. You allow your grief to be handled by the hands of the divine. This is ensuring security and establishing a greater connection with self. This is how you're able to really discover your true authentic nature without hiding and or attached to the pain. Now, I want to kind of reiterate the fact that I said this is ensuring security and establishing a greater connection with self, because a lot of the times, again, the perpetrators or the people who have sought harm knowingly, I like to say, I love to say knowingly, because that's just my narrative. That's my narrative. I think everyone is fully aware of what they do. I do not care. But I'm not saying you have to take that, right? You can choose, you use your discernment, right? You use your discernment. You do that with what you will. But for me, no. But what I'm saying is, people who do it knowingly or unknowingly, they always want you to look at them and use your forgiveness. They want you to use your free will to forgive them. They want you to use your free will to understand them. And then in that way, they continue on with what they are doing. That's why I said forgiveness is for self first. Understanding is for self first. Right? We have to understand that. That is very imperative. And again, Dr. Gabor Mate, he talks about this in a way that may compute better with people who would rather not, who doesn't like align with my own personal narrative, which is, I think everyone knows what they're doing. Right. He explains it because he said, he openly admits that he's caused trauma onto his children, and that he has the words to articulate it and understand that blame is not this, it's not to blame anyone, and it's not to do this. He has those experiences and he has those words, right? Me, on the other hand, I don't have any experience with that too much. And so I'm going to link the video, so you guys, if you guys are more in alignment with what he has to say about open admission to, traumatizing somebody else, then it's there for you to connect with that and understand yourself on that level, right? But this is how I'm putting it out there, okay? So finally, for the perpetrators, and this is a message, okay, they have to understand that there is no power in that, and there never truly was. That false sense of power only leads to further destruction of themselves and their minds, by the way, because it is everything we just said. And when they can openly admit that, that is when they can begin to truly exercise power. Because again, power is just through your free will. Power is through confrontation. It's through admitting that what you've done is this. And it's also through understanding that. The same way that Dr. Gabor has done so. He openly admitted to the fact that he traumatized his children. He also openly admitted to the fact that it is up to them to decide how they want to forgive, if they want to forgive. He goes through all of it. But because of that, he's able to exercise freedom, love. He's able to do all of these things, write about it, talk about it, articulate. That's true. That is true power, because he chose his free. He didn't use his free will to turn a blind eye like many people do. He used his free will, his power, to openly admit it and talk about it, confront it. And not only that, he has a better relationship with his children because of it. So a lot of things come very, very well with this concept. But anyway, because open admission of it, not implication, not passivity, right? Not buying things, not, oh, you want to go to a movie? No. But direct confrontation of it is when their power can be real. And that goes for anything and everyone at all times. Whether you are a perpetrator or whether you're someone who doesn't know this, all of these things, all these concepts are literally timeless. Like I said here, that goes for any and all human beings that also align with perpetuation of wrongdoings. But again, it goes for anyone, regardless of whether you perpetuate or whatever. It goes for everyone. So accountability is the only way. And you can choose otherwise. But we all know how recklessness ends. I don't. But maybe it is in the hell that they wrote about in the Bible. Okay? So that is all. Okay? I hope this made sense. I hope you guys found this valuable. You guys took some good, key concepts from this, and really just let it sink in, right? Just let it sink in. Again, there's no right or wrong. There is no right or wrong. But there is free will, and there are things that you are doing, right? There are things that that you are doing, right? I still don't believe in the concept of right or wrong, but there's things that and there's things that you choose not to look at, and then there's things that you don't know. That's it. There's no right or wrong. Okay. All right. If you guys enjoyed this one, let me know. I'm linking every single thing I just said in this video. But with that being said, guys, I am off, and yeah. Thank you for listening. All right.